What's going on, everybody? We have brand new tech introduced to Last Shelter. We're going to cover it completely. We're going to be talking about special operations. Now, this is a little bit different from some other tech. There are other tech like military command, for example, which you cannot see on this base, which is one of the reasons why I'm showing you on this base. You only unlock it by first getting survival tactics to, I believe, around 75%, and then you'll unlock military command at 0, and then you can put some stuff in here. From all of the bases that I've looked at, special operations seems to be on the base immediately. Now, I have a farm account. I say farm, but it has cutting edge max and then 0 on everything else. It hasn't played in many seasons, and it has special ops. So if you don't have cutting edge maxed and you don't see special operations and you're from an older state, like 1 through 1,000, please let me know. Reach out to me on the comments or in Discord or whatever, because maybe that's the missing link, and that information could be very helpful for some players. So with all of that said, we're going to dive right into it. Like I said, there is another piece of tech called military command. A lot of players are saying they're exactly the same. They are not. Special operations and military command are not the same. The first several nodes, so like up to here, basically, not even actually, but some of these nodes here are the same, with the middle ones being a little bit different. But they do end up differing pretty significantly later down the tree. So just keep that in mind, that they are definitely different. They also cost a different amount of war badges. Military command seems to be more expensive than special operations. And again, you need to, have survival tactics very high up, which will cost more just in order to unlock military command. So it's definitely different. This seems to be more of like a, I wouldn't say like a super maxed tech like the military command. This just seems to be for everybody, and there are some really good stats in here. So let's dive into it. Now, on another base that I have, I've gone down the tree a little bit, and I've done some math on basically the war badge calculations. I have some supermax friends who've gone down the tree very far, and have said, this is how many war badges I used, to go down to this level. They didn't individually check like I was doing, but the math seems to be adding up pretty well. So take what I'm about to say with the war badge cost, with a grain of salt. Eventually, hopefully, I'll be able to actually max it out or whatever, and I will record every single cost so that that data is present. At the moment, my base is not even close to that level. I do not have millions and millions of war badges. So let's jump into it. The first node here, fighter or siege defender resistance on this row. Siege defender is pretty good depending on how you play the game. So generally, you never want your own base to be hit. It means you're out of position, you fell asleep, or you don't have an escape pad. All three of those are pretty inexcusable. So you really never want to get hit unless you're a super max base. But at that point, it doesn't really matter. You're just going to max all this regardless. Siege defender does, however, work if you are reinforcing a base getting hit, and that happens a lot more frequently. If you're a decent sized base, you're like a whale, not like a megalodon, but you put in some money in the game, a good amount of money, you will probably be reinforcing these super duper maxed bases, and in that case, siege defender stuff is pretty good. The stats are fairly good. So it goes up to 10% here, and it's only going to cost you around 15,000 war badges, which really isn't that much. So overall for this entire node, it's going to cost you around 45,000 war badges. This second node here is Siege Defender Might. Pretty much exactly the same. Same concept supply, same cost. So another 45,000. So overall for these two, 90k. 90,000 war badges. Then we have increased marching speed bonus. This is again the same in the military command stuff up to this level. But marching speed is honestly really nice. I hate watching my APCs, just, the line of the APC and the guy just slowly going across. So I wish this was like 5,000%, but 5% is pretty nice. It doesn't really matter. It is really good if you're a speed tiler, for example, if that's your role in your guild, in your Eden. This is incredibly important, and you definitely want to maximize this immediately. This is only going to cost you around 10,000 war badges to to max. So it's 100,000 war badges up to this line here. And again, if you're a speed tiler, you need this. That is your job. Put your war badges into this. Moving along, we have tactical resistance and tactical might. Both of these are very, very, very good stats. A long time ago, might was, touted as significantly better than tactical might. It's not so much the case anymore because the majority, like 95% of heroes don't really basic attack a lot. So tactical might increases your skill damage. Might increases skill damage and basic attack damage. So yes, might is better, but the vast majority of kills, the vast majority of damage currently in the current meta is skill damage, which makes tactical resistance and tactical might really, really good stats. Now, each node is going to cost you around 20,000 to max, 20,000 war badges to max. So 60k here, 60k here, for a total now at this line of 220,000 war badges, basically. Not the most, honestly. You can get that free to play, and you are getting some pretty good stats. If you're spending, a little bit a week, a little bit being relative, of course, but if you're spending some a week, you can basically get this in under 2 weeks from starting at 0. So not a whole lot of war badges spent yet. Next up, we have Life Goes On. This reduces the kill rate taken by 10%. This is actually pretty good. It basically just makes you a beefier base. You'll take less kills. So there are multiple different types of damage taken in any battle report. Heavy injuries and minor injuries, and then like poison for Eden and stuff like that. Minor injuries you just get back. They just come back in the APC and you get all those troops back. Heavy injuries, depending on where this battle takes place, could go to your gene fragments or your Doomsday, your Eden hospital. This will reduce that by 10%, the amount that goes into those by 10%. So this is really, really actually good. Nobody would complain about this. It's a really good stat. And this is about 15,000 war badges to max. So, our overall is 240,000 at the moment. Next up, we have Siege Attacker Resistance and Siege Attacker Might. Now, I talked about Siege Defender earlier being kind of an interesting stat because generally you don't really want to be taking hits. You kind of, for most people, you're not really going to be attacking bases either. Either you're attacking like bases, that, fell asleep or whatever, and they're not refilling troops, in which case the stats don't really matter. Or you're attacking supermax bases, and you're just kind of trying to do like chip damage. In that case, the stats, they're not going to change the tide of battle, but maybe you'll do a little bit more damage. It's not really the best for most people. If you're like a rogue, then yeah, this is great. But regardless, each node in here is going to cost you around 24,000 war badges to max. All 6 of these. So each row is going to be like 70k. Overall, we're now at about 380,000 at this level. And then we come into combat speed increase. So this is an incredibly, incredibly powerful, incredibly important stat. Again, I believe you do also have this on military command up to this ish level. No, sorry, not on military command, but you have combat speed in some other areas as well. If you're in a mirror matchup, combat speed really, really matters. Without a difference in combat speed, if you have exactly the same stats, an attacker is always going to attack first onto a defender. If the defender has this or has increased combat speed, the defender is actually going to attack first. So that's when it becomes really, really important. It's definitely an important stat to have. Eventually, everyone's going to, come back to the same combat speed. But it is really, really nice to have. So just keep that in mind. Kind of like the first people to get this will have an advantage until everyone else catches up, sort of like that. This is only going to cost you around like 18,000, 17,000 war badges. So at this line here, it's 400,000 war badges. Now, 400,000 is not that much. You can get that free to play, just saving up over a period of time. Since Special Operations is released or seemingly released right away, you kind of want to get the most value that you can out of these tech. As you go down, the cost significantly rises, meaning you really don't want to dive super deep into these trees, generally speaking. Now, there are some really, really good stuff lower down in the trees, but generally speaking, you want to kind of spread it out as far as you can amongst every valuable node. So like I mentioned before, this is quite important. The combat speed node is quite important. It's going to be 400,000 to get to that point. But I would probably prioritize that over something like, enhanced Painblade or like mech or stuff like that. I would probably prioritize the 400,000 war badges into getting this combat speed. From here on, things get expensive. Now, I have not gotten this far in the actual base that I'm researching this stuff in. So the math here might differ fairly significantly. I have estimated it based on everything else, based on just napkin math, but I would probably take my estimation and maybe even have it. I think it's way too much, but we're gonna go with the estimation until I don't know, I dump thousands of dollars into the game again, and then we'll find out. Or until Last Shelter, the devs give me 2 million more badges or something like that. I just need, if the devs are watching, I just need 1 million more badges. All right. Just kidding. Anyway, now we have fighter resistance, fighter might, and fighter HP. So really, really good stuff here. Really, really, really good stuff here. You can see that now these are 20 nodes. So we actually have 20 fighter resistance, or just resistance, 20 might, and then 5% HP. Those are pretty significant stats. However, from the napkin math, the cost of this node, just this one node maxing out, is about 100,000 war badges. Now, again, I haven't got this far, so these numbers, it might be like closer to 50,000 or somewhere in between, but let's just assume worst case scenario, about 100,000 war badges to max this. Meaning at this point, getting just resistance and just might is going to be about 1 million more badges. So from this line here is going to be about 1 million more badges. Again, napkin math, take it as you will. One day we'll get down here. Now the HP is really, 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 really strong stat. It is the best defensive stat. It is much better than resistance, just flat out period. You're only getting 5% HP versus 20% resistance. So, there is that to consider. But this is also going to be significantly cheaper. It seems like these nodes here are going to cost you around 20,000 war badges to max. So, 60K? So we're at about 1,060,000 war badges to get up to this line here. Now, I told you it's going to get expensive. Again, take the 20 these nodes with a grain of salt, but just assuming. So now we have mental training. This is also a really, really good stat. This basically makes you CC immune up to 5% chance. So let's say, your opponent has a stun, and there's 30% chance of casting it. This is basically going to make it a 25% chance of getting that stun on your APC. Really, really, really strong. It works for, suppress, disarm, silence, and confuse, the 4 strong types of CC. So this can be huge, 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 especially this, will work really well against like Hunk and some of those APCs that kind of confuse. Now, this isn't that expensive. This is, again, going to be about 20K, 20K war badges to max. So I think we're basically at 1,080,000 war badges to get this node maxed, but it is very, very strong. Now, again, just more crazy expensive stuff here. Fighter, siege, attacker, or just attacker resistance and attacker might, not nearly as good as the previous ones. So just might and just resistance is way, way, way better than siege, attacker, resistance, and siege, attacker, might. Like, times, I don't even know. I would consider might to be like 5 to 10 times stronger than siege, attacker, might. Based on how many kills you're generally going to get, I've probably have 30 battle reports of Siege Attacker. I probably have 100 battle reports of Siege Defender in the current Eden, and at least 1,000 of neither. So it's the Siege Attacker and Siege Defender stuff isn't really that strong. So at this point, if you really want to max this stuff out, you are going to be spending a lot, and you really want to consider probably switching to something else. So again, these nodes are probably going to cost you around 100,000 each, which is a lot. So 300,000, 300,000. We're at basically 1.6, 1.7 million war badges here. Next up, we have Siege and Soldier. This is, again, really, really, really strong, but it will be costly to get here. However, this node itself is quite cheap. It's about 25,000 war badges. What it does is it increases your chance to cast skills by 5%. This is huge. This is really, really, really enormous on most heroes. Now, a lot of the current meta heroes actually have a 100% cast rate on some of their skills. So this is basically entirely useless. But on the really, really strong, really heavy hitting, really impactful skills, they might have like 30 to 70% chance to cast. That 5% is really, really strong. Considering there's 8 rounds in a battle, 8 times 5, 40% extra over the whole course of the battle for one extra, skill per hero is insane. Generally, with this maxed, you're going to have an extra skill, at least one extra skill every single battle, which could definitely change the tide of your battle. However, to get up to here, it's going to cost you around 1.7 million war badges. Again, not too sure about these 20s, but yeah, do with that what you want. From here, we have some really, really good stats, but really costly. So here we just have resistance and might up to 20%, which again is huge. And like I said, I would value regular over, siege by like 5 to 10%. I mean, 5 to 10 times more valuable. These are going to cost you around 200,000 war badges. Now, again, I know I've said this 1,000 times, but I'm going to continue to say it. You could probably take this number and like half it. So 100K to 200K war badges for each one of these nodes. So to max all of this stuff out here to get to this line is about 3 million war badges, roughly. We'll see. But consider 3 million war badges to get to this line. However, you are getting so many stats at this point, but it will be costing you a fortune. Now, again, I have some supermaxed friends who have basically gotten here, and they say it cost around 2.5 million war badges. So that's, they weren't actually like jotting down exactly how many, but they just assumed, I had around 2.5 million and I got to here. So it'll quite likely be costing around 2.5 million to get here. But so let's just go with that number for now. Then we have Steadfast. This is just HP, but this is a way more cost-effective version of HP. Whereas the other one is like HP per troop type, and it's pretty expensive. This one is just straight up HP, just across every single troop. So this is a way, way, way cheaper option. This is going to cost you around 30,000 war badges. So let's say we're at like still 2.5 million war badges, or up to like 3 million war badges. Then we have Siege Defender Resistance and Siege Defender Might, which again, my feelings on both of these. Not great, and these cost an enormous amount of war badges. 250,000 per node per napkin math. So 750K to max each one of these rows. Now we're talking like 4.5 million war badges, or probably more accurately like 3.5 million war badges. Somewhere from 3.5 million to 4.5 million just to get to this node here, which isn't that good. It's okay. Basically what this is trying to say, this is not like battle. This has nothing to do with your actual battle performance. It's not like treatment in battle. What this does is it basically is the exact opposite of the Life Goes On node, where you take less heavy injuries, you take less kills, meaning like, not as many troops are going to the Doomsday Hospital. This is the exact opposite. More of your enemy troops are going to go to the Doomsday Hospital. This is really big in aggregate. So over the course of a season, 5% more troops in the Doomsday Hospital is big, but it's not really going to change anything. To be honest, if you think about it like a max base with 5 billion power, 5%, it's not that much. So just keep that in mind. This one isn't really terribly important. And at this point, we're at like, what, 3.5 to 4.5 million war badges. So, I mean, you're just going for it at this point. This is going to cost you around like 30,000 to max, but it really doesn't get you much. And then we have the big boys here. This is where this is the Megalodon territory here. This is resistance, just regular resistance, regular might, regular HP, and regular damage. So this first node here from the napkin math is 500,000 war badges each. Now again, napkin math, it could be closer to like 250,000 war badges, but I would not be surprised if these are 500,000 war badges each. These nodes here. Thankfully, the HP and the damage nodes are way cheaper. The HP node is probably going to be around 100,000, still expensive. And then the damage node is probably going to be around 150,000. Now, the only thing we haven't covered here is damage. Damage is the best attacking stat by far. It is basically the exact opposite of HP. So 5% damage is huge. You can pretty much think of the final calculation being damage, the final, battle simulation calculation. For the attacking side or whatever, it's going to be damage is kind of the last thing. So multiplying at the very end is going to be very effective. You're basically multiplying the power dealt by 1.05, which is a lot. So yeah, damage, really huge. Overall, though, with all of this, to get to these damage nodes is insanely expensive. It's probably going to cost you anywhere from like 7.5 million war badges to 9 million war badges. Maybe like 7 million to 9 million war badges to max out special operations. It's expensive. Again, I don't know. I haven't gotten this far, but take it as you will. From 7 million to 9 million, that's pretty, yes, that is what it's going to cost. Now, from the difference from here, from Wild Attack to getting this maxed is like 3 million war badges. 3 to 4 million war badges. So generally speaking, you might hear that number of like 7 to 9 million and be like, what the is going on? It's pretty much going to cost you like 4 million to get here. So I don't know. I'm not going to be spending 4 million extra war badges just to go down to this damage for a very long time. I would get to that 4 million war badges spent in Spec Ops and then, definitely switch to something else or like stop buying war badges. Quite honestly, if you want what I would do on my personal base is I would get to here. This is going to cost you about 2.5 to 3 million war badges. That's what I would get to. I don't care about the Siege Defender stuff at all, and the rest is just way too expensive for me. And granted, I'm not free to play. I'm not spending much currently, but this is where I would get to if I was spending, several, maybe $2,000 to $3,000 a month. I would get to this HP, and then put the rest of that spending into something else. So it's been a long video. This is what I have for you guys. Hopefully, you don't see this new tech. Basically, this came out like last night, and everything I saw was pretty much despair. People are like, what the hell, man? I don't even have like whatever this is. So I don't even have survival tactics at like 50%, which means I still don't have military command, which means there's no way I'm going to get to special operations. The way that I look at it, that I would recommend is to, again, spread it out. Special operations has some really, really good stats. And you get some really good stats fairly early on. You get regular resistance, 20% regular resistance, 20% regular might, and 5% HP at 1,000,000 war badges. That's really, really good. You get 5% combat speed at around 400,000 war badges. That's really, really good. I would spend that. I would be happy getting those stats with those, the cost of those war badges. Everything else is like super whale bait, basically. Everything below those numbers is just insane whale bait. People are going to be spending 10 times the amount of you, if not more, maybe 20 times the amount to get a bare increase in stats over you. So, I don't know. I wouldn't look at it as like despair, like it's impossible. You're really not. I don't know. People are going to flame me for this, but in my opinion, if you're spending $100 a month, $500 a month, and you're expecting to beat somebody who's literally spending $20,000 a month, $50,000 a month, I don't know. It doesn't really seem fair. Seems weird to say. We're aware it's a pay-to-win game. This tech is pay-to-win. If you get all this tech all the way down, you will be winning, but it's really not that much. If you have 400,000 war badges to spend on special operations, I would do it pretty much immediately. Then I would consider going into your other tech and then maybe coming back and spending an extra 600,000 war badges on special operations to get to that 1 million mark. At the 1 million mark, you're getting pretty much everything you need. And then you can do whatever else you want. So that's how I would take it, guys. But again, I'm a little glass half full kind of guy. So maybe I'm not seeing the downsides. Let me know what you guys think about special operations. I know 99% of you are going to say this is ridiculous. I can't keep up with this spending. You don't have to. You don't have to spend if you don't want to spend. You can be significant. You can have a significant role without spending. So, if it's breaking your bank, please just save your money. You'll get this eventually. It might take time, but even on my farm account, I have around 400,000 more badges to spend. That's a fully 100% free to play base. So that's going to do it for me, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I know it's a very long video, but there is so much information. If you made it to this point in the video, please put in the comments, #SpecOps. You're not going to get anything, but I'll know you're a real one, all right? Take it easy, everybody. See you on the next one. Peace.